Are you feeling empty, blank, numb, or disconnected from yourself or others? If you're experiencing any of these feelings, it's an indication that you're stuck in shame and you have unresolved childhood trauma. Now, shame is a loss of our inherent power. That's part of why you feel so empty, blank, numb, disconnected from yourself and from others. You don't have the power. It's been taken from you. And it happens when that power gets taken from us in childhood, when we are told directly or indirectly that we have no value or worth. So for instance, it's simple little things. Like most people think childhood trauma is the big stuff. It is. But these are common feelings that everybody goes through in life. And it's simple little moments when our parents are too busy to play with us. Do you see what that says? It's an indirect, unspoken message that you're not valuable and worthy of my time. At least that's how the child perceives it. It may not be the parent's intent, but that's the way the child perceives it, especially if it happens repeatedly. If you're told, don't cry, stop that crying, don't feel that way, boom. You're told directly that what you're feeling is shameful, what you're experiencing is bad or wrong. And so you learn, wait a minute, it's not okay for me to express my inherent power, to be who I am, to experience life on life's terms. I have to go blank and numb and disconnect from life's processes so I can fit into this family system. So to protect yourself from that reality, those perfectly imperfect parenting moments where our parents aren't at their best and they send those direct or indirect messages, to protect ourselves from that pain, we disconnect, we shut down, we go blank, we go empty, we go numb. Now, as a child, it's a protection mechanism. It's smart. It was a gift. Like, you were really clever to figure out, okay, wait a minute. This isn't going to work out well for me, so how am I going to survive this? I'll just detach from myself and from others. I'll create a facade, a wall of protection that protects my inner heart. Now, that's a gifted strategy for a child. The problem is, now that we're adults, it boomerangs back. We replay it against ourselves as an adult. And this is what people don't realize. Whenever we're having adult feelings, we're just re-experiencing our childhood feelings. It's not about what happened in this moment. It's not how our brain and body works. It's not how emotions work. Emotions are learned. We're not born with them. We're born with what's called affect, and then we learn emotions. We learn emotions from our primary caregivers and society and the state of our body. What, are we hungry, angry, lonely, tired? What's this, or really more hungry and tired? What's the state of our body? And so you, by whatever your childhood system was, you learned that when certain things happen, that this emotion that I feel, this is the definition for it. This is what it means. So think of it like simple things. I use this example a lot. Table manners in America, at least when I was growing up, there would be a severe emotional reaction if you had poor table manners, chewed with your mouth open, talked with your mouth full, elbows on the table. So the definition, the emotional definition is, if I do that, I lack value and worth. My parents are going to let me know. Well, if you grew up in Asia, it's the polar opposite. Their emotional definition is, if I don't eat that way, I don't have value and worth. So do you see, everybody constructs their own emotional definitions. That's why there's so many fights in relationships, is because everyone, they don't realize that the biggest reason they're fighting is they grew up with different definitions. That it's frustrating to me, or I don't know if it's frustrating. Maybe it's frustrating because we're not taught that even though words have definitions, we all place our own definitions onto words, and they're placed onto those words based upon our childhood emotional experiences. So when we see somebody's body language or eye roll or sentence structure go a certain way, we will have a certain emotional reaction to that, which has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the emotional definitions that we were taught by our primary caregivers and the society in which we grew up in, how it was defined. And so that's why when you are currently feeling empty, blank, numb, and disconnected from yourself or from others, it has nothing to do with this moment. It has everything to do with the unhealed, unresolved childhood trauma, the emotional definitions that were placed onto your experiences. And now you're living experiences that are similar to that, and that's what's triggering the replaying of these shameful feelings of the loss of inherent power. And you're shutting down in all of these ways is you are basically, I don't care what your age is, 20, 30, 50, 70, you're falling back into 2 to 10 years old. If you're feeling empty, blank, numb, disconnected from yourself or from others, you are emotionally at that age during those moments. You're not adult. You're stuck in the unresolved childhood trauma. And that's why, as a child, it was a protection mechanism, but now it's boomeranged back against you because it's been unresolved. So the secret is, one, we have to get into truth. Remember the healing process that I teach: truth, responsibility, healing, and forgiveness. So we have to get into truth that whenever we experience an adult emotion, and whether positive or negative, it's a learned construct in childhood. That we're just reliving an emotional definition that was placed into us in childhood. If we don't like this experience, if to us we are defining our adult emotion as negative, it means we need to take responsibility and go back and do the healing work on the original emotional experience where we learned the definition that this was negative and bad, where we felt shame, either directly or indirectly. The message sent to us that we didn't have value and worth. And it's now our job to take responsibility, become the parent for ourselves that our perfectly imperfect parents couldn't be in that moment, and reparent ourselves out of that by doing the healing work. When we do that, we can forgive them for being human and limited, and we can forgive ourselves for how we are making ourselves relive our childhood every time we have these emotional reactions. Now, it doesn't make us bad that we are choosing to relive these against ourselves. It's just how our brain and body works. You can't stop it. But what you can stop is the definition that you place on what you're experiencing. Right now, you're stuck in a childhood definition that's working against you. You have a choice. You can get into truth, you can take responsibility, you can do the healing work and make the choice to go, okay, so my parents did the best they could. But unfortunately, in this moment, they shamed me. And they took away my inherent power and left me with feeling that I don't have value and worth. Well, I can choose to become the parent for myself that they couldn't be. Take responsibility and do the healing work to get myself out of that. And I'm going to give you some basic outlines to begin doing that. First of all, one of the steps is to begin validating your value and worth. The greatest example of that, I have all my clients do this, is I ask them to track all the things they accomplish each day. Like, pay attention, because even on your worst day, you're accomplishing a heck of a lot more than you think. Like, I've had a lot of clients come into a session and they are just beaten down. And I just ask them to start telling me about their day. And they go for a couple minutes and I go, okay, did you hear what you said? No. Tell me again. How did you start your day? Well, I took a shower. Oh, so you loved yourself. Write that down. Then what did you do? Well, I ate breakfast. Ah, so you loved yourself some more. Write that down. Then what'd you do? Oh, I went to work. Wow, so you really loved yourself. In other words, because we're so detached, blank, and numb, and disconnected from ourselves, we can't see our own inherent value and worth, and how all the millions of ways, even on our worst day, we're loving and protecting ourselves. We are noticing. Because remember, our parents, in those moments where they shamed us, they couldn't see us. And so we're just living what we were taught. We're not seeing ourselves. We're not seeing, wow, I got out of bed. I took a shower. I went for a walk. I went to work. I went to the gym. Like, I did all of these things on this terrible day. I talk about Zyra, a client of mine. She took this to, it was amazing. She came to me because she was filled with shame and suffering from migraines and severe health conditions. And it was all because she had a highly critical mother who to this day, just disparages everything she did. And so, I asked her to start tracking all the things she did, and she'd write down, took a sip of water, went to the bathroom. Like any little thing she did, she walked around with a yellow legal pad, and at the end of the day, there'd be like 300 things on that list. Basically, any little thing she did, she validated herself. She appreciated that she's worthy of her own recognition. She saw herself for who she really was. Well, within a week, migraines were gone, everything turned around. That's what I wish doctors would tell us. Almost all health conditions are just emotional pain that we're not dealing with. And just like it is with Zyra and all my clients, when they start dealing with the underlying pain, emotional pain, their health conditions completely reverse. So that's your first step. Connect to yourself. See yourself. Be the parent for yourself you didn't have. The parent who notices you, who sees you and connects with you and validates your worth and everything you're doing on a moment-to-moment, minute-to-minute, day-to-day basis. You're worthy of being seen by you. Nobody on this planet is ever going to see us enough, right? That's an unrealistic expectation, because think of your parents. I mean, they were navigating their own relationship, their own career. There's probably one or more kids in the house. There's stress with bills. How are they ever, even the best parents, how are they ever going to totally validate your worth? It's just not possible. Humanly, it's not possible for them to be totally present and see every wonderful thing about you. Every child is going to leave childhood with shame from those perfectly imperfect moments in childhood where our parents couldn't see us. Well, it's our job to get into truth about that, take responsibility, become the parent for ourselves that they couldn't be, do the healing work by start noticing ourselves, reconnecting to ourselves, being the parent for ourselves that we needed and deserved, and start validating our inherent worth and value. All right? Now, the next step is to really take that deeper connection to reconnect to yourself. And this is going to confront the blankness, the feeling empty and numb. And what this is your defense mechanism that you use to detach from what you're feeling. I mentioned this before, 70% of the population doesn't even feel. When you ask them, they'll say, good, bad, those aren't feelings. They can't even describe what they're feeling. So, my suggestion is head on over to my website, kennyweiss.net. Under the Resources tab, if you scroll about halfway down, you'll see Feelings Wheel. It's free. Download it. Download that Feelings Wheel and start tracking your feelings as often as possible. I tell people 3 to 5 times a day. I know when I was learning to reconnect to myself, I did it. I set the alarm on my phone to go off every hour. And every hour I'd check in. What am I feeling? I just write it down. What am I feeling? Write it down. What I learned was to start, one, being present. That I am feeling lots of things. I thought I was empty. I thought I was blank. I thought I was numb. No, I was just disconnected. But when I made the conscious choice to take responsibility and begin doing the healing work, I realized I'm having non-stop feelings throughout the day. I just learned to push them down and suppress them and detach and disconnect from myself. So I need to reconnect with myself. And so at first, all I did was track them. And then at the end of the day, I'd categorize them, and I started to see there were certain feelings that were repeating over and over and over. Well, let's move on to the next step. Let's start doing the healing work on those emotional definitions that were placed into us. Well, that's my 3-step emotional authenticity process. This is how we begin the recovery journey. We ask ourselves 3 questions. What am I feeling? Where in my body do I feel it? What's my first memory? Now, I've dealt with the first one. What am I feeling? Do the feelings wheel. Track that as much as possible. The reason we ask where in my body do I feel this is because we store all emotional trauma physically in our body. So each feeling is going to attach to certain aspects of our body. And this is usually where our health concerns are. You're going to see almost always a direct correlation between whatever's going on health-wise to where you're feeling these so-called negative feelings. Final step, what's my first memory? Now, the way most people's brains work is they don't immediately remember something in childhood. You want to go with the first thing that pops into your mind. For most people, their first memory is going to be something that happened in the last couple weeks. That's fine. Write it down. Now ask yourself, okay, what was the time before that where I had this feeling? Might be something within a couple years. Write it down. Just keep doing it. 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Eventually, you're going to arrive somewhere between 2 and 10 years old where you remember a life experience with your caregivers or some situation where you felt this original feeling. Now, for some people, they don't remember the actual event, but they will remember a time frame. They'll be like, I don't remember something happened, but it just feels like, I don't know, I was like 6 years old. You don't have to remember this specific event where you learned this emotional definition. It's not a requirement. You will remember a certain time frame, all right? Write that down. Now, there's several reasons for this. One is, it just brought you into truth. All you're ever doing as an adult is reliving your childhood emotional definitions. You're not even present when you're having an adult emotion. It has nothing to do with this moment. All you're seeing is a representation of a person, place, or thing that reminds your brain and body of exactly a traumatic moment from your past, or even a positive moment. And you're emotionally defined, your brain, based on its life experience, is defining that as either good or bad. That's it. That's why Julian Jaynes says, very rarely are we ever present. Between 95 and 97% of our adult life for everybody on this planet. We're just stuck reliving our subconscious patterns. Basically what that means is we're all stuck reliving childhood. We're not present adults. And now when you think of politicians, think of people, adults, who just freak out and act poorly. And how prevalent it is everywhere. Your friend group, your spouse, your family, politician, whoever it is. When they have those moments, what you're seeing is our world is filled with an overwhelming amount of adult children stuck in unresolved childhood pain. That's it. And so we get to decide, are we going to live into truth that that's what's happening? Am I going to take responsibility? Am I going to do the healing work? Well, you have an option. If you decide you want to begin doing that healing work, you can go back to my website. Go to the same resources drop-down menu, and as soon as you click it, at the very top it says resources again. Open that up. There you're going to see several free downloads. The one you're looking for is, I think it says Codependence Recovery, How to Give the Pain Back. It's a 10-step process that walks you through some of what I just walked you through, but much deeper, to help you learn to give that shame that was placed into you as a child, give it back to the original person and allow them to carry it, but also forgive them and forgive yourself that you've been repeating this feeling against yourself for all these years, because you're going to feel shame. You're going to go, gosh, man, I've been doing this to me. It wasn't them, it was me. Well, why would you blame yourself? You didn't know any better. We aren't taught these basic, did your parents teach you this is how emotions work? No. Should they have? Yes. Should schools teach this? Yes. Is this basic information that every adult should know and should be teaching to themselves first and then their children and then in schools? Heck yes it is. But, we're human, we're limited. This is the best we can do for now. Maybe in time that will change. But you didn't know that at the time. Well, now you do. So you can't be blamed for doing something you weren't even aware wasn't good for you. You were just doing the best you could with where you were at the time. You didn't know you were reliving your own pain against yourself. So you're not to blame. Now that you've heard it, you have a choice. This is the first time in your life. See, as a child, you never had a choice. That you could have, had you been taught, you could have chosen when your parents are perfectly imperfect to emotionally define it different. But you didn't know that, so you didn't have a choice. Well, now that you've heard this content, you have a choice. You can choose to blow it off and stay stuck in the pain and not live in truth, or you can choose to take responsibility and do the healing work and turn it around and get those emotions to start working for you and stop working against you. So if you want to hold yourself accountable, live in truth, responsibility, and healing and forgiveness, you can begin that healing process by tracking your feelings, doing the 3-step emotional authenticity process, and then learning the 10-step process to give the pain back. And there's much more to the recovery journey, but that gives you a basic start. If you choose, you can go much deeper as well. So if you're feeling empty, blank, numb, and disconnected from yourself or others, you're stuck in shame, and you're stuck in unresolved childhood trauma, and there's some simple basic steps to get you reconnected to yourself, to get you validating your inherent worth and value, and being the parent for yourself that you didn't have as a child.